Hello, I'm Khushi Singh. I'm a second year medical student and today we are here to discuss the physical examination of cardiovascular system. Hello, I'm Dr. Khushi. May I know your name and age please?
I'm Subhajit Halder and I'm 22 years old.
So Subhojit, have you experienced any chest pain recently?
Uh, no, I'm just here for a routine examination actually.
Okay, so for that you will need to remove your shirt and we will begin with the same. Okay.
Okay, sure.
To assess the JVP, raise the head of the bed or the examining table to about 30 degrees. So first we'll begin by estimating the jugular venous pressure, which is the most important and frequently used skills of physical examination. The JVP, it closely parallels the pressure in the right atrium or the central venous pressure, which is related primarily to the volume in the venous system. So the JVP is best assessed by the pulsations of the right internal jugular vein. So first we have to identify where the jugular venous pulsations rise and the point of its highest oscillation. The internal jugular veins lie deep to the SCM muscles in the neck and they are not directly visible. As you can see, we have identified the point of highest oscillation. Slice over here. Focus on the right internal jugular vein. Identify the highest point of pulsation in the right jugular vein. Then extend a long rectangular object or card horizontally from this point and a centimeter ruler vertically from the sternal angle, making an exact right angle. Measure the vertical distance in centimeters above the sternal angle where the horizontal object crosses the ruler and add 5 centimeters to this distance from the sternal angle. The total is JVP. Our next examination is of the carotid pulse, which provides valuable information about cardiac function, especially aortic valve stenosis and regurgitation. To assess the amplitude and contour, the patient should be supine with the head of the bed elevated at about 30 degrees. First, inspect the neck for carotid pulsations which often are visible just medial to the SCM muscles. Then place your index and middle fingers on the right carotid artery in the lower third of the neck and palpate for pulsations. Never palpate both the carotid arteries at the same time. This may decrease the blood flow to the brain and induce syncope. Note the amplitude of the pulse, the contour of the pulse wave. The normal upstroke is brisk, smooth, rapid and follows S1 almost immediately. The summit is smooth, rounded and roughly mid-systolic. The downstroke is less abrupt than the upstroke. Note that the normal carotid upstroke follows S1 and precedes S2. Just tilt your head for there, my. Now exhale and hold your breath. Okay. As we palpate the carotid artery, we may detect vibrations or thrills. Auscultate both the carotid arteries to listen for a bruit, which is a murmur-like sound arising from turbulent atrial blood flow. Ask the patient to stop breathing for 15 seconds and then listen with the diaphragm of the stethoscope, which detects the higher frequency sounds of the atrial bruits. Place the diaphragm near the upper end of the thyroid cartilage below the angle of the jaw, which overlies the bifurcation of the common carotid artery. A bruit in this location is less likely to be confused with a transmitted murmur from the heart or subclavian. For the cardiac examination, we begin with inspection of the anterior chest that may reveal a location of the apical impulse or less commonly the ventricular movements of the left-sided S3 or S4. Begin with the general palpation of the chest wall. Palpate along the auscultation sides for heaves, lifts, thrills, impulses from the right ventricle or the four heart sounds. To palpate heaves and lifts, use your palm or hold your finger pads flat or obliquely against the chest. Heaves and lifts are sustained impulses that rhythmically lift your fingers, usually produced by an enlarged right or left ventricle or atrium, and occasionally by ventricular aneurysms. For thrills, press the ball of your hand firmly on the chest to check for a buzzing or vibratory sensation that is caused by an underlying turbulent flow. If present, auscultate the same area for murmurs. Once a murmur is detected, it is easier to palpate a thrill in position that attenuates the murmur. Palpate the impulses from the right ventricle in the right ventricular area, normally at the lower left sternal border and in the subxiphoid area. The apical impulse or the point of maximal impulse represents the brief early pulsations of the left ventricle as it moves anteriorly during contraction and contacts the chest wall. In most examinations, the apical impulse is the point of maximal impulse. If you cannot identify the apical impulse when the patient is supine, ask the patient to roll partly onto the left side into the left lateral decubitus position. Now assess the location, diameter, amplitude and duration of the apical impulse. The left lateral decubitus position displaces the apical impulse to the left. Palpate the diameter of the apical impulse. In the supine position, it usually measures less than 2.5 cm. It may feel larger in the left lateral decubitus position. Estimate the amplitude of the impulse. Normally, it is small and feels brisk and tapping. The duration of the apical impulse is useful in identifying hypertrophy. Now breathe out and hold your breath for me, okay? Ask the patient to exhale and briefly stop breathing, then place the tips of your curved fingers in the left, third, fourth, and fifth interspaces to palpate for the systolic impulse of the right ventricle. In patients with an increased anterior or posterior diameter, ask the patient to inhale and briefly stop breathing. Then palpate the right ventricle in the epigastric or subxiphoid area. Our next technique of examination is auscultation. Here I have used the alternate method in which I am starting from the base and then moving towards the apex. First, my stethoscope is placed at the right second interspace that overlies the aortic outflow tract. Then I am moving to the pulmonic area that overlies the pulmonary artery. Take a breath in and out for me. I have asked the patient to breathe in and breathe out so as to listen to the splitting of the second heart sound, which has two components, A2 and P2, of which A2 is usually louder. The split is usually quite narrow and it is normally heard late in inspiration. S2 is heard louder in the pulmonic, that is the second left interspace, and the aortic area, that is the second right interspace. The S2 is louder at the base, but as we move towards the apex, the S1 appears louder. We use the bell at the apex and the tricuspid area as it detects the low pitch sounds of S3 and S4 and the murmur of mitral stenosis. The tricuspid area lies in the lower left sternal border, while the mitral valve is at the apex point and it is the point of maximal impulse. Roll on to your left side. For detection of mitral stenosis, ask the patient to roll into the left lateral decubitus position, which brings the left ventricle closer to the chest wall. Place the bell of your stethoscope lightly on the apical impulse. This position attenuates a left-sided S3 and S4 and mitral murmurs, especially mitral stenosis. To facilitate the correct identification of systole and diastole, as you auscultate the chest, palpate the right carotid artery in the lower third of the neck with your left index and middle fingers. S1 usually falls just before the carotid upstroke, while S2 follows the carotid upstroke. Systole is the interval between S1 and S2, while diastole is the interval between S2 and S1. The correct timing of systole and diastole is a fundamental prerequisite to identifying events in the cardiac cycle. At the base, S2 is louder than S1, while at the apex, S1 is louder than S2. Heart murmurs are distinct heart sounds that are distinguished by their pitch and their longer duration. They are attributed to the turbulent blood flow and are usually diagnostic of the valvular heart disease. For identifying a heart murmur, you should notice the time of the murmur. Does it fall in systole or diastole, and what is its duration? Locate where on the precordium the murmur is loudest. At the base, along the sternal border, or at the apex. Does it radiate? Conduct any necessary maneuvers required. Determine the shape of the murmur. Grade the intensity of the murmur from 1 to 6 and determine its pitch and quality. Identified associated features such as quality of S1 and S2, presence of extra sounds such as S3, S4 or an OS, and presence of any additional murmurs.